At the beginning of the film, Olga, a young woman, is exploring an old abandoned home while searching for something. Upon entering a room, she points a rabbit doll holding a drum in various directions, and the doll begins to play the drums, sensing something in the room like a ghost detector. Olga follows the bunny's drumming downstairs, where she discovers a small hole in the wall using a saw found in the basement, and witnesses an unforgettable sight. In the next scene, Olga's uncle, Barrett, seeks help from his old friend Isaac, who suffers from amnesia after an accident and cannot recall who Barrett is. Barrett explains that he needs someone to babysit Olga, whose father committed suicide and her mother disappeared. Isaac learns that Olga's house is located on a small island in the middle of a lake when they arrive at the lake. But despite not knowing how to swim, he and Barrett use a boat to reach the house. Isaac takes the job, which pays $200 a day, as he is currently short on money. The house is very remote, and according to Barrett, Olga does not allow anyone to enter her bedroom, especially at night, due to her mental health issues, which cause her to fear attacks. Additionally, Olga experiences catatonic states in which she remains completely still. Barrett insists that Isaac wears a set of long chains with a harness, which would prevent him from entering Olga's room. Isaac initially refuses but eventually relents. After Barrett leaves, Isaac explores the house, discovering that the chains are connected to the basement, and tries to use the bathroom but finds that the chains are not too long to allow him to do so. Later, he encounters a dog in the yard, but as the lights suddenly turn off, his chain is pulled, leading him down the hallway in confusion. The intercom starts buzzing, and Isaac goes to check on Olga, but she remains catatonic. That night, a thud behind him wakes Isaac up, which is coming from a scary painting on the wall. He flips the painting but finds that it has turned back to face him, which unsettles him. Despite this, he sleeps facing the painting. Later that night, he is awakened by the sound of the painting falling to the ground. Upon picking it up out of curiosity, he notices that the lady's eyes have enlarged and hears a lady's voice whispering to him to come closer. Unable to fall back asleep, he begins exploring the house once again. This time, he discovers a bunny toy inside a case and takes it out. Suddenly, he hears a series of screams, followed by Olga walking in with a crossbow. She reassures him not to panic, as it was only wild foxes that her dad used to hunt. They then have their first conversation, during which Olga shares that her father committed suicide due to his claustrophobia. He had been locked in the basement and couldn't stand it, so he shot himself with an arrow. According to Olga, her father was kept in the harness by her crazy mother, who swallowed the key when he asked for it. After the prank happened, Olga's mother disappeared, and her father committed suicide after being trapped in the basement. After this morbid story, Olga leaves the room, while Isaac sits alone in front of the bunny. Suddenly, it starts drumming, and the door to the basement opens behind him as the bunny starts drumming furiously. He calls for Olga to check if she's there but hears no answer. When he comes to investigate, he sees light coming from the basement, so he starts heading down. In the basement, he finds the root of his harness and a hole in the wall that Olga had carved in the beginning of the movie. When he shines a flashlight to see inside, he is shocked to see Olga's mother's dead body there, with an arrow stuck in her chest. Given that he saw Olga carrying a crossbow earlier, he strongly suspects that Olga is the culprit. He returns upstairs to Olga's room, where he luckily finds her in a catatonic state again. Since the only phone in the house is in Olga's room, he is unable to go inside due to the harness. Despite this, he gets creative and reaches for the phone through a small vent hole on the wall. He then calls Uncle Barrett to tell him about the dead body of the mother and how Olga must have killed her and hid her in the basement. After hearing this, Uncle Barrett says he will take care of Isaac and the situation. In the meantime, Isaac decides to lock Olga in her room out of fear. Later on, a confused Olga communicates through the intercom, asking why she's locked inside. Isaac admits to the body discovery and how he thinks Olga did it, to which Olga swears that she didn't kill the mother and that the father and uncle did. Intrigued by what she has to say, he goes to confront her. Apparently, Olga found her mother's body and told her uncle about it, and surprisingly, Her uncle immediately confessed to killing Olga's mother together with Olga's father due to her insanity. Olga also decided against calling the police because she didn't want her father to be remembered as the killer of his own wife. Not only that, according to Uncle Barrett, before the accident that caused Isaac to lose his memory, Isaac had been to this house in the past. Back then, he was sent by Uncle Barrett to lock Olga's father in the basement, which resulted in the suicide. Isaac is horrified to hear this and doesn't believe he's capable of such a thing. He is eager to call the police and report the dead body he discovered, but Olga is preventing him from doing so. Eventually, they agree to contact Uncle Barrett together to confirm the story about Isaac locking the father in the basement. Uncle Barrett shocks Isaac by confirming the tale and then has a private conversation with Olga, warning her not to let Isaac leave. This terrifies Isaac, and he immediately locks Olga in her room again. He attempts to free himself from the harness but is unsuccessful. He tries to find another solution and sees the key to his harness in Olga's room through a vent hole. When he tries to grab it, Olga breaks his fingers. In agony, he retreats to the dining room and realigns his bones. There, he discovers pictures of the mother wearing the harness key as a necklace. He heads to the basement but finds that the key is still there, meaning that Olga lied about the mother swallowing the key. Isaac obtains the spare keys for the harness and escapes. However, the lights go out, and he hears an ominous scream in the basement. Despite this, he makes his way back to the main floor, where he encounters Olga in her catatonic state. He grabs her crossbow and puts the harness on her before discovering that the phone line has been severed. He has a flashback of a conversation with Uncle Barrett when he was hired to lock the dad in the basement. He breaks down and cries himself to sleep as he starts to remember. When he wakes up, he goes to the bathroom to freshen up. Olga retrieves the crossbow and shoots Isaac, hitting his ear. Isaac closes the door to protect himself, and Olga disappears. Later, he leaves the bathroom but is shot by Olga again, and the arrow impales his leg. He returns to the bathroom and passes out from the pain. In a flashback to his last visit to the house, he prepares for Barrett's job and finds the dad in the basement covered in blood. He flees in fear and later learns that Barrett arranged the dad's funeral. Isaac confronts Barrett, but he evades the allegations and gives Isaac a wad of cash. Isaac declined the money, explaining that the job had already been completed before his arrival. Consequently, Barrett departed with the money, fearing that Isaac would reveal his misdeeds. Later that night, Barrett sneaked into Isaac's apartment and pushed him off the balcony, causing him to suffer from amnesia. When Isaac regains consciousness, he is in the bathroom and uses pliers to remove an arrow so he can move more easily. He then puts on some clothes for warmth and discovers a small door in the bathroom that leads to a hidden passageway. He crawls through the passageway to escape from Olga, and a ghostly figure of a mother appears when he is not looking. Isaac reaches the end of the hall, where he finds the mother's dead body behind the wall. He uses a tiny saw to carve a bigger hole to escape and covers the mother's face with his hat. Suddenly, Olga's monkey toy starts drumming, and Olga enters the basement, taking an arrow from the dead mother. Uncle Barrett arrives and scolds Olga, revealing that he is an abusive man who has been causing trouble for Olga's family. Barrett looks through the hole in the wall and sees Isaac, but Olga shoots him in the back and locks him in the basement. Barrett convinces Isaac to come out and help face Olga, but he is secretly holding a log, preparing to attack Isaac. The saw starts moving, but Isaac speaks through an intercom upstairs, leaving everyone wondering who is behind the wall. The mother's ghost suddenly appears, attacking Barrett. Isaac escapes through the chimney and frees a dog on the way out. The movie ends with Olga finding Isaac, and they stare at each other, leaving the next events unknown.